Good morning, everyone. Nice to have a studio audience with us, and I want to welcome everybody. I know you're all there. Let me see. No. Usually I see a sea of faces. I'll just know that you're all there. There you are. So welcome. Welcome to First Church. I have a new, I won't call it a prayer book, meditation opening book, which is entitled New Thoughts for Today, and it was sent to me by Dr. Celeste, who's a friend of mine. One of the reasons why I think she's got about 6 pieces in here, so she wanted me to see what she wrote. And I thought I'll start with 1 or 2 of these short passages because they tie in a little bit to what we're talking about today. And I always have to say, if you're watching us in our post-broadcast, we can be found on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and we now have hundreds of people viewing us every week. And all I'd say, I'm glad you're finding us, even if it's next week. Please, though, send us a message so you can get on our Zoom presentation on Thursdays and Sundays, because then there's a chance for you to interact with everyone else. So, and you're also able to get our e-letters, our pastor's messages, and various things we put out. So without further ado, in this case, it is not Celeste, it's a Reverend Gay Beauregard. It's entitled Free to Release. And she quotes Hugh Prather. Fear is static that prevents me from hearing my intuition. We're all free to choose our thoughts and responses to life's changes. To manage those changes in supportive ways takes awareness that there is a power within us and around us that we can call on and believe, and that we unite with this power. We are more than enough to handle any situation. One extremely helpful method we can utilize is to simply breathe in, and as we focus on our breath, we release, and when we release it, it's a 2-cycle action. We breathe in and we breathe out, focusing on our breath always. If only for a minute, it gives us a refreshing break and allows the mind and the emotions to be free. As we breathe, we are brought into the current moment. With every breath in, we must then release it in order to bring in another. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could release thoughts just as easily? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could release excess things in our lives so easily? There's many who have used this technique for years, and many say, let go and let God. If the term God bothers you, use love. Let go and let love instead. At any given moment, we are free to release consternation, upset, anger, resentments. So we're available to let love fill us with soothing balm. Let love soothe us. If you try it enough times, it can actually become your default mode. How great would that be if you could do that? Let go and let love. Let go and let God. And she ends by saying, I choose to release thoughts of worry. I choose to relieve thoughts of concern. In fact, I release any and all things that no longer serve me. I know right where I am, love is, spirit is, and all is truly well. And so it is. And then, along the same lines, the loss of that which is important frequently brings up a feeling of rage, said Mr. Hawkins in the Path of Surrender. And this is a brief one, then we'll do our regular lesson. Letting go. Letting go seems hard, whether it's friends, family, a house, possessions, whatever it is. And it comes across to the emotional self as loss. Might even feel like a death when you're letting go of something. You have a position, you've been engaged in something, or you've been engaged with people, places, and things, and you're called to let go. And we don't really always know how to handle it. Do we cry? Do we scream? What do? We do all the above sometimes. Grief can come in many ways. It comes when we don't get what we want, or the circumstances we want don't turn out the way we want. And it's part of the cycle of life. Yet, we're not always taught how to move gracefully through these moments. When there's partings and when things don't work out, it's messy, it sometimes is scary, and it can be overwhelming. I continually find myself going through these cycles. Grief comes to me in my life. I'm sure I'm not the only one. A friend mentioned that there should be a stage after acceptance called sadness. Sadness seems to linger around the edges of the letting go for a while, like the dancer tiptoeing in and out of the circle, twirling with the energy and then coming to rest and just breathing, knowing at times that we fall as we dance with life. We fall and we breathe and we pick ourselves up and we dance once again. Take the time to rest. Take the time to breathe. Breathe through painful times, times where you feel angst, where there's tightness within, and allow the energy to move and to come up and be relinquished. If we keep on surrendering to it each time it comes up, it will eventually dissolve. Resistance keeps it close by. So once again, breathe, rest, and don't forget to keep dancing. And then this is closed by saying, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So that was from Reverend Melissa Higginbottom. So some notes on releasing and forgiving, and that's a little bit of a tie into what we're talking about today. I wanted to speak about prayer in a different way today. Usually we present prayer as an affirmative process, spiritual mind treatment, as outlined by Ernest Holmes. Louise did it slightly differently. They did it differently in New York. When I came here, they had a different steps. There's a one-step prayer, there's 3, there's 5, there's 7. And we teach them all, and we can show you how to do it. We're happy to teach it. Because when we learn how to engage life and use this process, we can bring about great change in our life. My inspiration today came from Ernest Holmes, William Edelin, who you hear me talk about sometimes, Wayne Dyer, the Fillmores too, Ram Dass, and there's a long list of other people because I could hear them in some of this, and it's a rather brief presentation. I think it was Joseph Campbell who wrote The Power of the Myth, and William Edelin, the famous columnist, who always were talking about approaching life, the mystery of life. And it was Dr. Holmes who referred to God, as you all know, with the word it. And you might remember in our textbook referring to creative intelligence as the thing itself and what it does. And I remember being taken aback by those terms and thinking, when I was younger, Holmes is referring to this higher power, God, and all of that is the thing itself. And that was really a lot for me when I first heard it, because wherever I spoke of God, I was usually crossing myself and all of that. And Dr. Holmes wrote this book back, I think it was 1929 or 1930. It was a long time ago. I can understand people languaging it that way now, but it must have been pretty courageous to be doing it all those years ago. So that was a lot for me to think about the thing itself and what it does, especially coming from the background I came from. So if you're new to this teaching, we do have reverence for spirit, and we have reverence for the idea of spirit, but they were definitely trying to get us to take a look at what spirit is and how spirit operates in their choice of all these words. So it took me a while to assimilate it all. I know many of you were raised in families where what we call, in what's called the Judeo-Christian background, which, the tribes of Abraham, be the Jewish people, the Christians, and Islam, all are based upon the Old Testament. And now I know today we have people who watch us in the Middle East, we have people watching us in Africa and in England and Canada, and I think we figured we had like 15 different countries as we were looking recently. We have a reach now. Over 9,000 people have tuned into us over the past probably 5 months. And so our numbers, it's tough to even calculate them anymore because it'll be several hundred each week, and there's just more and more coming in, and they come in once a month, they come in twice a month, some are coming regularly. It's a lot to engage. So it's exciting. We're attempting to find new ways to grow and handle it. We're starting a couple new groups and possibly 3. There's a young man, well, he's not a young man, he's a young man for me, who's interested in helping the youth of New York who have particular challenges, and I'll announce more about that later in the week, but he has a plan to do a spirit group and really help some local people. So that's exciting. I still would like to find a lady who might be involved in want to do a spirit group here. So we've got a lot going on with our hybrid classes, and we have many more to do. So we're just trying to figure out what's next. But whatever we're doing, we have a teaching that's for today. And that's what Ernest Holmes spoke of, a teaching for today. And we broadcast messages that can help anybody, really, of any faith. We don't have dogma here. We don't have creeds here. We don't have an altar to worship the Most High anywhere, because we have a sense that the Most High, the God, the Spirit is completely, it's within us. The best kept secret of the world is this thing, this beautiful thing, which is in you and that responds to you. So we teach you that we're each individualizations of that. And the youth need to hear that. And we intend to somehow, some way get that message to them. And also to anyone who wants to tune in, of all the hundreds of people who hear us this week. We're really glad you're with us. We hope you sign in, sign up. I know you're signing in because we've got the 9,000 names, but become a part of things. Send us a message. This week, there was as many as 9 counseling appointments. I think we actually did 6 or 7 of them. Make those appointments through Jimmy, and usually in the afternoon, our afternoons are filled with talking to people and listening. And we can't necessarily fix all problems, but we're pretty good listeners, and we can certainly do affirmative prayer with you and make referrals to others who might have more specific, talents to help you. So that's what's really beautiful about what's going on here. It's also what's beautiful about our teaching and why hundreds are signing on every month that want to hear these messages. And rather than talk about the process today, the steps and the mechanics, which we will do again and again with you, of doing affirmative prayer treatment, today I want to go a little bit more into the metaphysical practice itself, like what's behind all that. Today, borrowing from some of the people I've mentioned, let's think about living our life in a way, an affirmative way. What does that look like? What does it mean to live the affirmative life and commune with life? You hear me quote all the time Dr. Holmes saying, "Find me one person who's so redeemed from the bondage of self, and I will found the Redeemer of my soul." Well, what's he talking about there? He's speaking of a person who lives and moves and sees the good in people, sees the good in life, sees the good no matter what. that person isn't caught up in what's missing and what's wrong. They just don't have the time for the pain. They don't have time for any of it. Find me one person who's so redeemed from the bondage of self, who's focused on the God or the good. And for them, every encounter is a holy encounter. And they're not reacting to the world. So living the affirmative life that Dr. Holmes described would certainly be the goal for us. Now, many of us are a long way off from that, but it's still the goal. I recall a story where someone said to a friend, I know you are a deeply spiritual person, but I never see you praying. I never see you talking about prayer even. And yet I have this sense that you are a very spiritual person. And as I think of it, I have a friend whose name is Don, who's just like that. But in this case, the statement was, I know you're a deeply spiritual person, yet I don't ever hear anything about your prayer practices. And the answer came back, oh, my friend, I'm glad you talked about it. He said, my every waking moment is a prayer. My every waking moment is a prayer. See, that's really a practitioner, in a true sense of what we teach. I mean, not that any one of us quite live it that way, perfectly, but that was quite a response for this spiritual guy. He responded, I'm glad you asked me. My every waking moment is a prayer. So you hear me say many weeks, many times, many of us look out there for happiness. See, we're so other referred. I'll be happy when I have this person, this girlfriend, this boyfriend. I'll be happy when I get this job. I'll be happy when someone gives me the apartment. I'll be happy when I lose a little bit weight. I'll be happy. It's all about getting something. It's all about other people doing things, and it's, and I don't hear people just really want do it the other way. I'm happy now, and I'm happy regardless. Whatever people are doing or not doing doesn't matter. I'm happy. So we live, many of us, looking at our lives out there for happiness, out there for God, and we react to so much. We react to just about everything. That's the way of the masses. Camus would talk about, Albert Camus, the masses. Bill Tolliver, who taught me years ago, he was speaking of the Renault, the car, and there was a slogan years ago, 10,000 Frenchmen can't be wrong. And Bill said, not only can they be wrong, they are wrong. They're wrong most of the time. And he was speaking also of the masses, and he, of course, said the masses are blankety blank. And he wasn't really trying to speak badly of the people, but, the mass thinking is not necessarily awake. If you make it into a teaching like this, your head is just a little bit above the crowd, because you become thinkers in your own right. You get to work on yourself. You get to realize, okay, I'm living in a spiritual system. I'm a participant in my life. I'm creating my life. And sometimes when I'm reacting, I'm spinning things out of control. And I have the ability in this teaching to stop. We joke with it, stop in the name of love. I have the ability not to participate in stuff. I have the ability not to go there when people are going there and they're into the story and gossip and just talk badly about themselves or situations. You have the ability not to entertain the bad news. You have the ability to be the executive in your own life. You have the ability to determine and say no. No to this, no to all of this. I choose happiness, I choose peace. There's an old friend of mine who used to say, I choose not to be part of the mess. Some of you want to be part of the mess, you can be part of the mess. Is that the way of God, would you think? You're at choice. You have executive power. You have the ability to have dominion of your own thinking. So a lot of people are out there reacting to everything, participating in every negative thought, wherever someone's being critical, they seem to want to join the bandwagon. There used to be a slogan out there, a pillow, and we'd see on people's couches, if you have anything bad to say, sit by me. So you can be one of those if you want to. I think the Bible used to call that the counsel of, what was it? The wicked. So it's not necessarily the most enlightened way to live your life. So if you want to turn all that around, you can. If you want to live out there and just talk about what's bad and what's missing, just turn on any one of the news stations every night and just let yourself get programmed with it. And then you'll have to take yourself a couple hours to calm down, and you have to do something to counteract what you've just done to yourself by turning on those news channels. So most people are reactive by nature. Now, we don't have to be, but most people are. I learned long ago a few tricks of the trade, one of which is refuse to be offended. They say, well, nothing bothers you. And I'm saying, well, no, that's not true. Things bother me. But I have to understand that people are doing the best that they can with what they got. And when they come at you with insults and disparaging words, and usually when people are doing that, they got everything, I'll say, half-assed and usually half wrong. But they take positions because they gather information. They don't have all the information. And they have their own past hurts, and they're on a roll. If they were more enlightened, they would go within and say to themselves, I could see peace instead of any of this. I released the need for this commotion. I released the need for this. I released the need of being a fault finder. I can be, I intend to be, I want to be a love finder. The kingdom of God is within and it's at hand, and I can do it another way. I can stop in the name of love right now and start again. Yesterday, it certainly ended last night, and this is a new moment if I will only let it be. But if I have a need to keep doing that, then, who's perpetuating all this stuff? And the question, why? What is the need for that? Louise Hay would ask you to release within yourself the need for all of that. So there's power for good in the universe. We come here how to learn how to harness it. How I taught you the kids are taught. Get out of that stagecoach and all your ideas and thoughts. And get up there and think some new thoughts on the platform. And use that power consciously. Direct it towards positive things. Hitch your wagon to stars, as Emerson talked about. I promise you the stars are not about negativity and criticism. They're about expansive ideas. They're about ideas of love and forgiveness and realization that everyone is evolving, yourself included. So we have this power. We're using it. Most of the world uses it destructively, because they're using it usually in reaction to things they're not understanding fully. They're reacting to one another. So you remember the tune, I know I do. I think I remember the artist. Slow down, you move too fast, right? I think I went on to say you want to make the morning or the moment last. So slow down and remember, I am one with the One. I am a child of the Most High. I'm an individualization of God life. And this is true. But it requires slowing down. Often we speak too quickly and we say things we don't mean. I remember Cher singing, words are like weapons. They wound us sometimes. So what comes out of our mouth often is reaction, and it's quick, and it creates problems for ourselves and others. So slow down, pause, take that pause that refreshes. We spoke recently in a Thursday class, when we're centered in God awareness of presence, because that's all there ever is this thing, this presence. When we slow down and we know that we live, move, and we have our being in presence, everything then starts to quiet down quite a bit. The world itself becomes quieter when you slow down. You start to experience beauty and love and appreciation. When you're living your life in a very, very fast way, in a reactive way, you're not in touch with much. Spirit will always try to get your attention. Even when you're spinning out of control, there is something within you that still tries to reach you. It might get you in your dreams. It might get you in a quiet moment. It surprise you even. So slowing down. Let the world become quieter. Let yourself pull back and out of all the noise and all the reaction. Pull yourself out of the need to be right or wrong. See, in a spiritual sense, all that stuff doesn't matter. You have all these strong opinions in our day-to-day living. And we realize we're here, our lives are brief. One of my great friends, Dana, used to say, this is not a dress rehearsal. This is it. And you're all caught up and embroiled in a bunch of nonsense. And it's dissipating your energy. It's making you sick. What's your part in this? Do you have a need to be right? You have to carry the banner? What is it? You could be seeing peace instead of this. You could be, like Ernest Holmes suggested, when he said, find me one person who's so redeemed from the bondage of self and all that garbage, and I'll find the person I want to hang out with who's so redeemed from the bondage of self. Because beneath all of that stuff, buried within us, all of us, is indwelling spirit. It tries to get your attention. It really does. It makes up quite a noise usually. I call it divine discontent when you're messed up and you're messed up. There's something inside of you that's very restless because it really wants you to clear the way of all of that so you can enter into the kingdom again. I think it was Jesus who said, be like the children. Let go of all that stuff. All that need to be right and wrong and vengeful and scorecards and all that other stuff. So you can be like the children and so you can enter this place of love. We allow ourselves we can allow ourselves to be connected. We can go to a place where we know all is well. That was one of Louise had lots of simple, brief statements. And she would say, all is well. And the fact is, if you let yourself get centered in God and centered in spiritual awareness, you will know all is well. We turn within, we invite spirit in. This presence awaits only our invitation into our awareness. And then all is calm. And you'll start to experience glimmers of joy. As you do this and you keep doing this, we'll know that there's a peace within us, and there's perfection, and there's life. You can train yourself to do this. You can lay down arms, you can lay down bitterness, you can lay down unhappiness, and you can be in a new moment. The book I may one day write will be entitled A New Moment, because that's where everything resides. If I'm bringing in anything from yesterday, any old hurt, any grievance, any resentment, forget it. I'm not here right now. I'm looping into the past, and I have a need to be right, and I want to perpetuate a war of some kind. And people do it all the time. But you can be still, and you can enter a new moment where everything is still, and everything's alive, and everything is, you can feel the energy, and it's wonderful. Bill Edelin, I believe, said it best in describing metaphysical prayer as living every hour of every day in a sustained state of awe, living every hour with a sense of adoration and wonder, with the celebration of the glory and the mystery that life is in and of itself. See, when you slow down, it can be a very exciting thing because you're put in touch with that energy and the possibility of all the good things. And we can allow ourselves to know it's here within us. If you can really do that more, affirmative prayer, meditation, sometimes journaling, oftentimes going in nature, you can bring yourself to places where you just cause yourself to be filled with the awareness of the perfection right here, right now, that's in us, and you can observe it, you can feel it. This kind of communing and prayer, if you will, can be done, doing other things too. Sometimes listening to beautiful music, or maybe talking to a loved one. Again, being in nature, doing some type of thing that you consider a labor of love. But do something to get there. Slowing down, of course, is probably the easiest and best way in contemplating. The great inventor, Einstein, once commented, and very much like Bill Edelin and others, the most beautiful thing we can ever experience is the mystery itself. The most beautiful thing, again, is to experience it. So how do I experience it? Well, slow down. Slow down. Take, when we opened today, the lady suggested, breathe it in and exhale whatever's unlike it. And breathe it in some more. And just breathe it in and exhale. And you might try affirmations. I am that I am. I am one with this. And breathe it in and let go. And breathe in love and let go. Breathe in everything that's good and let go of anything that's in the way. And say to yourself, I release the need for whatever it is, and only you will know whatever it is. Only you know what you're hanging on to. Only you know what is your part, where you're part of hanging on to what we call the mess, hanging on to the problem, or if you're perpetuating problems, breathe in this love, realize that I'm one with life in this divine love, and exhale the other. And begin to then start using your power and begin to talk about what's good. If we learn that habit, if we start talking about what's good and we start seeing what's good and we train ourselves to see what is good, we're going to be filled with joy and we're going to be lifters in life. We've known for over 50 years, for example, probably longer, that most churches, traditional in particular, but all of them, including metaphysical churches, are disappearing. It's no secret. We all know it. But one thing about that, spirit is not disappearing. It's just these houses of these old traditions and these churches. They're gone in most cases, and all through most of the world and America too. But it's exciting as you talk to younger people. Spirit's not going anywhere. Spirit is very much alive. They're just shedding all the outer entrapments that when we were kids we saw everywhere. The man-made churches and faiths and dogmas of the old are slipping away as people are more and more seeing themselves. They're seeing these structures as unnecessary for them to be connecting with Source. Because the younger generations, I'm learning as I listen to them, they know that spirit is. They don't oftentimes use the word God. They'll say energy, source, spirit. They know it's here. They know it's in everybody. So they're getting this message in different ways than we used to. It's like the genie is out of the bottle. They know they don't have to go to church to get this. People are realizing more and more that this energy is, and they know that they're part of it, and that's very exciting. I missed that part. I thought they were losing out. They weren't getting what we got. But the fact is, they're realizing it in ways that we never realized it. They may not know how to use it just yet, and I think we still have a valid contribution we can make to the youth. But they certainly know that they're a part of it. They may not know how to direct it yet, and all the things that we have learned here, but they know it is, and they sense it. And the need for people to have an authentic experience is never going to go away. So that's where our contribution can be, is to show people how to use it, how to direct it. We have some great things that we can add to this equation, but they're not trying to be like us, right? They already got it. They can learn from us how to use it. And we can learn from them language and ways to approach the whole process. Spirit in everybody is as strong as ever, even though the buildings are disappearing. And anything that resembles organized religion is up for grabs, because this isn't what the future is looking for. People don't want to be divided by religion. We have people on our calls that come from Every religion, quite honestly, they're all with us now. And the more we work with these people, we hear it in the things they tell us in their expression. Each of us, in some way, know we're connected with this divine life. My generation always seemed to think it was best celebrated in buildings and in scriptures of one kind or another. You know, everybody has equal access to it. I have some of my friends who are now in India and Pakistan and Europe, and they have a different way, but they're listening to us because they tell me, you know, you're saying the same thing we say, you're just saying it differently. Everybody has access to this. You know, it'd be illogical to think that the God that we've known is unique in this world, in this country. The God that we know, or the energy we know, is equally accessible to everyone everywhere. So we teach there's a power and a presence in all and available to all. And they can think of it with any face that they want or any name that they want. It doesn't make a slight bit of difference. It responds to everyone alike. Prayer itself is an attitude toward life. It's an attempt to feel the connection with life, to feel the connection with spirit. Now, we can all do this. It's available. You know, our choice is to invite it in, into our awareness. If you keep busy, you keep reacting and keep spinning the story, and you're like a train wreck going out of control. If you're doing that, I'll ask you, where is the dominion? You know, you have the ability to participate in healing. You have the ability to participate in positivity, to be a lifter. You have the ability to lift yourself up. You have the ability to lift others up. You have great power at your disposal if you choose to use the power. Otherwise, if you're reacting to everything and you're caught up in all the negative stuff, you really can't call yourself a new thought student. Not really, because you might have attended it, but you're not really practicing it. So if you want to be a part of what we do, and none of us do it perfectly, then what you want to do is keep on remembering, you know. Each and every moment is for giving. Each and every moment is to bring the awareness into the moment and to connect and to let go. To say hello. Each day, again, when we've talked in other talks, when you wake up in the morning, you get to say hello to life with excitement and to embrace it. And we have a choice in a day that's gone off track to start again. It doesn't matter if you have to start, it's never too late to start your day over, even if you're doing it 4 in the afternoon or 10 at night. We can choose at the beginning of each day how you decide you want to say hello to life, and you can choose to let go of grievances. And sometimes I want to say things don't work out the way we want them to. We may not be able to change the inevitable, but we can always change our attitude. We can see the good or the God if we want to. If you're determined, you can see it. Louise Hay would always say, everyone is doing the best they can. So I thought that when I was younger. Everyone is doing the best they can with the information and the awareness, understanding the awareness that they have. So she was basically asking you to let it all go. But she wasn't the first one who ever asked you that. We can go back to the time of Jesus, and he was asking you the same thing. We can let go, and we can move forward. You might ask yourself, if there's something that's bothering you, you might even ask yourself, is there someone who seems to be the cause of distress? Well, if I think you're the cause of my distress and all of that, you know, who's got the problem? You know, so what's the need for this? What's the need for the upset? What's the need for staying in judgment? And what's the need for staying in anger and keeping the whole thing going? Holding on to grievances. A book I love always says, love holds no grievances. You know, you want to let go of whatever the hell it is that's bothering you and grievance and resentment you have as soon as you can, because it really, that's not the way. I mean, if you want to do it, you're going to pay a terrible price for it. Our spiritual work is to see the good. Some of us don't want to see the good. We want to see our loved ones or others, because we're mad. We want to see them as scoundrels, and we want to see them as bad, and we want to see them in all kinds of ways. But that's not a very enlightened approach. There are so many lessons I've heard over the years where people are holding resentments only to realize, I've heard sermon after sermon like this, where people are holding on to resentments. They have really invested in being right. You know, they'd rather be right than be happy, right? And I could go in about 3 different people's sermons where people are holding resentments only to realize that they had half of the facts wrong, or they find out eventually the other person that they've been angry at for all these years is now dead. And then you think, oh my God, I've been mad all these years and the person's been long gone. So who's had the problem? Why perpetuate it? Why carry it for even a second? See, that type of person's not really a religious scientist. That type of person is really a person who's talking religious science. So I was looking at 2 or 3 different lessons. They were all saying the same thing. Holding a resentment, staying angry, it will bring cancer to you. It'll bring bring bad things to you because you're holding on all this negativity. It will bring forth disease right in your own self. So we want to release the patterns of judgment, lest we wind up getting ourselves very sick. Susan B., who was a student of mine years ago, I thought of her. I might even have her in this lesson someplace. She had a situation, she's a young girl, where some terrible things happened. And I knew her when she was in her early 50s. And she's a beautiful woman and so smart and so good. And she loved religious science and she loved me. But she had such a huge resentment towards somebody in her family. And she used to say to me, "Get real, Greg, I'm never going to forgive this person. In fact, I'm going to find ways to hurt them." And I remember saying, "Susan, you know something, you're going to hurt yourself if you keep doing this." And outwardly, she had carried a lot of weight. She's really smart, brilliant, fun in so many ways. But she said, "Get real. I'm not going to forgive this person. I'm going to do them harm because of whatever they did to whoever they did." And the side story is the person she was so angry at had Alzheimer's and didn't have a clue, totally checked out. Susan carried that for a long time, and the last I heard, I got a call that she was in an elevator at Palmetto Hospital in Florida, and she dropped dead of a massive heart attack. And she was in her early 50s. See, carrying anger and resentment, they're patterns, and it's an open invitation for dis-ease in your own body. In her case, it was a massive heart attack. For other people, it could be cancer. It could be anything. Louise Hay would say, "Look, you got to get a handle on this." Louise had had cancer operations a couple times, and she said, "I need to get at the underlying patterns within me where I'm critical and where I'm judgmental, because this is really taking a toll on my body and my life. And I could see peace. I could have happiness. What am I doing to myself with all this stuff?" Oftentimes, and most times, whatever it is that you're a part of where you're so angry, you have half the facts. And you haven't taken the time to pick up the phone and talk to the other people and really understand anything. And yet you're carrying the bandwagon further, and you're destroying things that you should be loving. But you're caught up in a bunch of mess that really is very problematic for yourself, and it's hurting other people too. So that was the story of Susan B. I loved her dearly, but she passed away, and I really did my best to say, look, let go of it, let go of it, let go. Find it within yourself somehow, some way, to realize that this person has done the best they can. I'm sure if they could do it over, they would do it over. Resentment so long lived, in the end, brings forth physical illness. In her case, again, a heart attack. I remember also saying to her, because we both knew that the individual she was so angry at, I said, he's mentally checked out. And I said, Susan, who's got the problem now? And she's smart. She knew she had the problem. But she said, she just couldn't get off of it. So I'm sure you're all getting the idea. But let me say, as my dad used to say, if I go further, I'll be gilding the lily, because I know you've all you've got the point. I was a Catholic kid, and I went to school. I had to go to Mass before school every day. That's a lot of Mass, a lot of confession and stuff. But there was an important number. It was 490. Do you know what that 490 was? Okay, some of you Catholic school people you'll remember it when I talk about it a little bit more. No matter what your background is, there was a story that was told in the New Testament by Matthew. And at that time in the Jewish tradition, I think they'd moved from Hammurabi, if you go back further, where it's an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I think at the time of Jesus, in that tradition, the notion was that you ought to be forgiving people at least 3 times, right? I may have this wrong, but but you'll get the idea anyway. You're going to forgive who have hurt you or yours, and the goal is to forgive and be forgiven, and all of that. The Apostle Peter, one of the followers of Jesus, came to Jesus one day and asking if we should forgive more. And Peter suggests, should we forgive people 7 times? He's asking Jesus, right? And beyond the normal 3 of the time, should we forgive 7? Should it be 7? And the answer you've all heard, it's come down for over 2,000 years now. The instruction was very clear. The instruction was to forgive people 70 times 7. Hear it again? How many times? Hey, Jesus, how many times do I need to forgive? 70 times 7. Guess what number that is? 490. So I'm sure the 490 isn't so important, but it was a number I remembered. I thought, that's a lot of forgiving. I got to be forgiven 490 times, whatever anybody does. So, and more than that, because he was really not talking about 490. He was talking about the instruction that came down from the great teacher was clear. Not 3, not 7 times, not 70 times 7, but in all times. And this great teacher understood that we are spiritual beings making mistakes all the time while we're growing, showed compassion just about in every interaction you ever heard about of him. He didn't want people stoned, for example. He didn't want people blamed, and he didn't want people condemned. And the Pharisees had great problems with him because he's breaking the rules. They wanted to stone this woman because she was a woman that, was doing different things. He was forgiving sinners. He showed compassion to people because he understood the humanity, he understood the spirituality, he understood that people are evolving. People are making mistakes. Who in this world do you know who is not making mistakes? And who are you to be judging them? Again, we got that speck that's in our, how does it go? We have things in our own eye, but we can see the speck in the other person's eye, but we can't seem to get the log out of our own. We judge, and we're really part of the problem. And the instruction was very clear with that 70 times 7. We're called to forgive endlessly and always. This is what a real religious scientist is, because they're seeing the good in the God, and they got nothing negative to say, because they're sure they're wrong on half of it to start with. They got a lot of facts from people who really don't have the whole story. They're listening to people who are gossiping, and then they get on the bandwagon and they carry forward very painful things that's hurting others, and it's hurting themselves most of all. It's an open invitation for dis-ease, and it's destructive. So this great teacher understood that we're all spiritual beings making mistakes while we're growing. And he showed compassion. He didn't want people to, he wanted to comfort the disturbed, not to destroy them. You might recall something else he said. whichever one of you who have not made mistakes, cast a stone. Just pick it up and kill that woman. And you might remember the story. What did people do with the stones in hand? They dropped them. And they thought, oh my God, I'm a part of this problem. He, having had great metaphysical understanding, said that we're all growing and evolving. And he lived a consciousness where he held no grievances. He held no grievances even towards the people who would betray them. Listen, you can realize when you're a leader, people are betraying you all the time. They have all kinds of notions. They sell you out. They have lots of opinions, oftentimes half-assed and half wrong, and they take their show on the road. Very, very destructive. He held no grievances even towards those that would betray him. So let us remember the number 490, and as Judith said, and more, right? So that we're able to keep extending love, and so we're the ones who can keep forgiving, even those people who are trying to hurt us and destroy us. We can love them because we know, forgive them, Father, what? They know not. Yeah, they don't know the whole story. We live, we move, we have our being in love. We're here to love, we're here to lift. We're here to realize that this presence, this good is in all of us. This God and good, it's here, it's now, it's available to all of us. I know many of you. I've spoken to some people this week who are going through hell, and I'm honored that you called me and spoke to me, and I was able to listen and somewhat guide and do some affirmative prayer. And right now, there's a lot of people wanting to call and talk to us. I never realized we'd open up such a door. Just call the center and make an appointment with Jimmy, and we'll find the time. Usually in the afternoons, early evenings, it's best for me. But call, and we can do affirmative prayer for you. Oftentimes, some people just need to get something, express something, and so they can help move through it. A little bit of counseling. Sometimes it's just a question of people needing someone to listen to them, maybe give them a little bit of redirection. Again, it could be an affirmative prayer. And oftentimes we refer them to someone else or some type of agency. The simplest thing for me to do is refer them to our Thursday self-healing class, because it's a great place to start. We will have Science of Mind classes coming very soon again. We have so many of them to teach you. As long as we have the audience. The last time we had 29 people go through it, 50 started, and our church can offer them now at prices of $50, $60, and we can give scholarships. So we can teach as many of you who want to learn. We have the classes for you. Again, we're considering 2 new spirit groups immediately. One for younger men, late teens through mid-20s. I have somebody who's really skilled who wants to do that. And then I have another person who wants to help the youth of New York. It's not just job readiness, it's people who have some issues that are preventing them from keeping jobs. So there can be areas where they maybe are a little bit reactive or a little bit angry, and so we have a special person that wants to have a little bit of ministry helping them, and so this is something good that we can do locally. And of course, a couple of us have got master's degrees in substance abuse too, so we're going to host a 12-step program at the center. We're here to do great good, and we're growing leaps and bounds. And Sazu said to us recently, the greatest thing you've got going on right now is over 9,000 people have reached out to you, Greg. He says nobody in the country has that. And so we're trying to engage them, and we're really thrilled that we have. I want to thank you all because you've helped do this. So people in all these phone calls are dealing with a lot, and some are hurting very much. And so much so, I might need to get another person or two here to help with some of the inbound phone calls. Our teaching is helping more and more people all the time. I remember reading a story a while back, I want to wind this down, where it was a story about 2 individuals that had been imprisoned This was after one of the wars for several years. And they survived the ordeal by focusing on the beauty that they saw in their surroundings. And for them, it might have been just looking out a window and getting a glimmer of a blue sky or a tree, or outdoors seeing a flower, or whatever it is. And they said they survived by focusing on the beauty, even in the midst of very grim circumstances. And I thought, that is the metaphysical approach. I was thinking about it last night. If you can keep focusing on the beauty, even when things seem to be hellish, that's your way through. I didn't say your way out. It's your way through. Keep focusing on the truth, the beauty, the love. And what was remarkable in both of these cases, their attitude alone is what kept them up. And as it works out, it helped about the people. I don't know if it's like a unit or whatever it was, like 12 or 15 people. These two people who were focused that way lifted the whole group up and got them through a 2-year period. It was their attitude alone that kept the others from giving up in despair also. They saved themselves and they lifted up the others. I mention this today because if you are in fact one of these people that are so connected and plugged in, my God, if you did nothing else in the world, you've done a great thing for the world. You don't have to be like have a great position or something. But if you live in close connection with what we call this indwelling spirit, you become a light to others in ways you don't even understand. They won't get you necessarily, but your very presence in what you do, being the lifter that you are, you're a source of joy for others, and it's somewhat contagious. If you're living your life that way, and your consciousness becomes a gift to all of us, you are undoubtedly doing great service for the whole world. You might not think you are. I can think a couple of you on the call that I know well. You're very unique, and you have great gifts, and I appreciate you. I probably, I do. I don't talk about it so much, but Reverend Judith and myself, we know some of these lifters, and they won't be part of the mess. They refuse to. They don't want anything to do with it. They're more interested in the teaching and practicing the presence and developing this metaphysical approach and living this affirmative life that Ernest Holmes described. Again, find me that one person who's so redeemed from the bondage of self. You can let all that stuff go. Where they have no animosity, they live without resentment, without cause. If you do this, you're allowing yourself to become saturated in joy. You lift everyone up. It allows you to appreciate all the beauty around you. This type of practice, this type of person, and when you do it, especially at the start of the day, it allows you to connect with the wonder that you are and the wonder that life is itself. It brings forth an awareness that you are one with life and people everywhere. You realize the beauty, you realize the love in everyone, and you and everyone. You don't care who it is. You see the good and the God in that person. This thing that's in us is a spiritual power that emanates from us. It has no place to disappear. Even when you're mad at it, it's still in these people and in these situations. You might be condemning the hell out of them, but whoever you're condemning is still a child of God, right? It has no place to disappear. It's always there. It would be great for us to realize that this good, this God, this spirituality is in all these people that we forget that. And this God is always experienced in the now. So it doesn't matter if you've been railing against your loved ones and doing everything else. You can bring yourself back today. You can create a new moment. When our senses are awakened to this great mystery, the beauty and the miracles of life engulf us. We respond energetically with joy. We run to the people we've been angry at. We say, I'm sorry. If you're smart, I'm sorry, I've been lost. So we're called today to realize that nobody else can do this for this. If it's done, it has to be done with our own consciousness. We can remember forgiving 70 times 7 and more And we can live in new moments where we can see the beauty in everyone and everything and know that all is well in the world and everything's unfolding in divine order. When we do this, there's a sense of total unity with life, earth, and beyond. We're healing our bodies. We're we're letting go of patterns of anger and disease that are surely they're going to show up in our own beings. So we let go of all that, and we have a sense of complete union with everyone and all that is. And so ends this morning's lesson. Thank you.